Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lori's Time with the Experienced Trainer. And today we have video questions with Holly Peck. And Holly is a speaker, trainer, and coach, and she's been in the business for over 25 years. So just wait until you hear what she has to say. How are you doing today, Holly?
Great. Thanks, Lori. Thanks for inviting me today.
You are quite welcome. Well, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in the talent development business.
Great. Well, I guess that starts about 25 years ago. I entered telecom industry as a trainer, customer service and sales trainer, and about 10 years later decided that I wanted to move into more of a professional and personal development training role. And so I started my own company, Peck Training Group, 22 years ago. And from there, it's been an amazing experience. I've never looked back. I've been able to help people around the world in the 3 Ps of leadership through training and coaching. And it's been a really amazing journey.
That sounds so exciting. Now, there's a lot of people on here that are brand new trainers. So tell us a story about when you were a brand new trainer, when you very first started out in the business. Anything strange happen or anything wonderful?
Well, yes, many wonderful things and a few strange things. I know one of the oddest things that I look back on now is saying yes to too many requests from my internal clients when I worked in telecom. So, either my manager, my director in HR, or a manager in the business would ask me to do something training-wise as a fix for a team or an individual. And I said yes way too frequently and was set up for a disaster because, in fact, it was a situation where that person could not be quickly fixed by a training or coaching intervention. Mm-hmm. And so as I matured, and even on my own, in my own business, with clients hiring me for specific programs and events, I had to learn to say no. And so sometimes it's training and coaching is not the answer. And so sometimes you become a consultant rather than a trainer or a coach. And I learned over the years how to do that effectively and still not fear losing the business or losing your credibility with the person asking you. So that's probably some of the more strange experiences I've had where I did say yes and it didn't go off well. I finally learned to say no. I've had amazing, wonderful experiences through the years when it is the right intervention or the right program or coaching engagement for a person or a group. In business, it can be an amazing experience where you get thank you notes, months and even years later. People stay in touch and tell you their success stories of how you made an impact on their life. And that's what keeps you going. That's what brought me into the field, and that's what keeps me there.
And what do you absolutely love about training and coaching and this business in general?
Well, it's a helper field, right? So many of us that are in this space are those who like to help. And so what I find is that I love helping people be the best version of themselves, whether that's at work or at home. And sometimes people just don't have the knowledge or the awareness or the skills to get to the next level that they want to be at work or at home, whether that's a career promotion or just, communicating better to get more results at work, or whether that's an interpersonal relationship they're struggling in. So just helping people to be the best version of themselves it's really rewarding.
Oh, that's wonderful. I feel the same way. And you're right, we are in the helper field. Turning it around a little bit, tell me a time when you were at your best. They say there's a place of flow or being in the zone. When were you in the zone? When were you in flow in doing a training or even coaching too? Either one.
I think back, I guess most recently would be I was speaking as a keynote speaker at Microsoft Women's Leadership Group in Irving, Texas. And I was speaking on political savvy for women and political pitfalls for women specifically in the workplace, which is a passion of mine. And I realized in the hour and a half I was speaking that everyone in the audience was sitting on the edge of their seat. I mean, they were literally, and there was probably 75 people in the audience. And I remember looking out and having that moment where you actually are unaware of yourself and aware of everyone else. And I realized that what I was saying and how I was saying it was exactly the information they needed in that moment. And they were fully engaged. And to have a full room, of women leaders fully engaged, feeling like that what you're saying and offering them is extremely valuable to them in their career, I could tell that I was in my zone or they wouldn't have been reacting that way. And the reason I was in my zone, you might ask, is because one, I was so passionate about the topic and I've lived it and I believe in it, how to be politically savvy as a woman at work. But two, I had rehearsed and practiced and spent many, many hours to make sure that particular event went off without a hitch. So it really is true that prior preparation prevents poor performance.
That's true. I always hear that as sort of a military thing, and there's an extra P in there as well.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. The non-PC version, right?
Exactly. Well, my next question is interesting because I don't know if people know this, but I very much look up to you in the field. In fact, Holly has been a coach for me, and I definitely look up to Holly and respect her and her coaching prowess and just her extensive background. So Holly, who do you look up to in the field, and who are the experts that you read about or you look up to or that you admire?
Well, thank you for that compliment. Very kind. There's been many people, famous and as well as regular people, mentors, managers throughout my career in corporate America. But probably the person I most have looked up to for the longest period of time in my 25-year career in training and development and coaching is Dr. Stephen Covey. I was initially in my career certified as a Franklin Covey trainer and spent, many, many, many years training his program, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, as well as things like principle-centered leadership and building trust and what matters most and all of those programs. And I just thought that he was an amazing man, and I met him on several occasions during my certifications, and even was on a vacation with him once, and on a sailing regatta in the Caribbean on his boat in his older years before he passed. And it was just such an honor. I felt like he really understood at a time where our society needed it, what effectiveness was. And it wasn't always about success in the traditional ways we define success, but it was true effectiveness personally and professionally. And the 7 Habits was my kind of creed for most of my career. And it really helped mold me, not only as a trainer and as a coach, but as a person. And I remember my late husband would ask me as soon as I get home from a trip training that class, the 7 Habits, I'd get home from training the 3-day session and he would say, "You taught the 7 Habits this week, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he said, "I can just tell everything about you is 7 Habits. You are so effective." And I was listening better and I was collaborating with him better. And it just molded me, and it still molds me and affects my work today. So Dr. Covey was it for me.
Dr. Covey, that's awesome. It's so neat that you shared the experience of meeting him and actually being on vacation with him. That is so cool. I remember when I got certified to teach 7 Habits, just going through the class for the first time, it was so emotional for me.
Yes.
I'm not a real emotional person, but it just really changed a lot of things about not only my life, but also my professional life too. It's quite amazing.
Exactly. Same experience. And when I took the class for the first time myself, I was a customer service and sales trainer. When I got exposed to that kind of content, that was the moment where I said, I'm going into more human resources and development training, which is, what we do today, more professional development. And that's what switched me. And so it permeates everything I do now.
Thank you so much. Now, you said you got certified with Covey, but I know that you have other certifications as well as a coaching certification. If you can let me know, why did you get your certification? And also, you've gotten a few awards too.
Oh.
Why did you get your certification? And tell us a little bit about some of the awards that you've received.
Sure. Well, I got my coaching certification about 10 years ago. And at that time, it was kind of progressive in terms of getting a true certification as a coach. And I've been coaching for over 20 years and, without a certification, but I was thrilled to get something to show, that this was a certification approved by the International Coach Federation, our governing body of coaches, ICF. And so I got my coaching certification through ILCT, which is Institute for Life Coach Training. And it was also business coaching as well as life coaching. And that kind of set me on the path as a coach of getting private clients, and found that I also started getting clients from my training programs as well as kind of a follow-on to training to help people make the skills stick in a one-on-one, very accountable way. So that was my first coaching certification. I've attended many other classes in coaching. I'm currently getting a coach certification through Bright Coach, which deals a lot more with levels of thinking and neuroscience, or brain science, which is fascinating. So always trying to sharpen my saw. Habit 7, the 7 habits, as I know you do too. So I've also got other training certifications along the way, from Achieve Global and Learning International and Zinger Miller and Otto Kroger with the Myers-Briggs and Brandon Partners, and gosh, I could go on and on. But I have many training certifications and a few coaching certifications, which have really served me well. In terms of recognition, just last year, actually, 2016 was a big year for me and my company, Peck Training, because we got the Women Business Enterprise of the Year for under $2 million revenue. And that was based on leadership in the community, business acumen, and also committed to working with other women businesses and other women entrepreneurs. So that was really exciting. That was from the Women Business Council. And the second one we got last year, which is why it was a big year, was we were recognized as one of the top 100 women-based businesses in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And that was from the Dallas Business Journal. So those were some pretty cool things that we were recognized with this past year.
That's excellent. Now, we're going to go through what I call quick answers. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to have you give me a quick answer, and then I just have one last question for you after the quick answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Where's the worst place that you've ever had to train or facilitate?
The worst place? Well, usually it involves some kind of very small conference room with a huge conference table stuck in the middle that cannot be moved. I've had breakout rooms for our training programs that have been storage closets for computers and boxes. And sometimes in hotel spaces, you're given a training room and then maybe a breakout room if you need it for a program that's on, 10 floors higher than where your main room is. So it requires some real hustle and does affect the timing of the program. So there's been some challenges along the way, but typically our clients give us some pretty great spaces. And you want to know the greatest space I've ever trained in?
I do, yes.
So the greatest space I've ever trained in would be in Shanghai, China, for one of our telecom high-tech clients. And the classroom was not only large, but it had windows from floor to ceiling so that you had a lot of natural light and you had a view of the downtown Shanghai skyline, and it was just gorgeous.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. What is your favorite teaching or facilitation prop?
Prop, so like a thing that you use. Wow, I have a lot. I'm thinking it might be my train whistle from FAO Schwartz. Yeah, I use the train whistle to ask everyone to get on board again, to get back on the train. So as opposed to, yelling for people on break or, trying to talk louder than them when they've gathered and they're all having fun, I simply give a train whistle and ask them to get all aboard for the training that's about to commence.
Lovely.
It's a fun, lighthearted way to get people back on track, so to speak.
So are you going to give us an example of what it sounds like?
I don't know. Let me see if I have it.
Okay.
I have it right here.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Now, Holly, who is your most famous participant?
My most famous participant. Let's see. I have to say it was as a coach and not a trainer. I coached a very well-known socialite on how to be a public speaker. And she's part of a very famous family. And I remember being quite nervous about the first meeting, but using my self-talk and reframing that mind monkey, that I had something really valuable to offer her that she didn't have. And it really didn't matter that she was famous. You know, she needed to learn as a philanthropist to be a great speaker. And it was a really cool experience. Of course, I had to sign a non-disclosure that I wouldn't let anyone know who she was.
All right, so no name dropping.
Sorry.
And I know you've been to Shanghai, but how far have you traveled for like a one-day class or hours for just one class?
One class, one day or shorter would be Johannesburg, South Africa.
Mm-hmm. And you're coming from?
I was coming from Dallas.
That's what I figured. Now, my last question for you is, what advice do you have for somebody starting out in the talent development field? If you had to give them any advice at all, what advice would you give them?
Someone just starting out? Wow, there's so many things. But I think the thing that served me really well, can I tell you two things? The two things that have served me really well is to diversify your client base, but specialize in what you offer. So in other words, when I first started my own company, my last corporate job became my biggest client. But when the economy crashed, I had no clients. And so I realized that I needed to go out and diversify and get into all different industries. But what would help me really be successful in selling my programs, services, etc., would be to specialize. And so I ended up specializing in the 3 P's of leadership, which are presentation skills, people skills, and presentations. And that branding really helps me and others focus on what it is I do with training and coaching. It all revolves around those 3 P's of leadership. So diversify your clients and your industries, but specialize in what you offer so people really remember you and know you, and you become an expert in those areas. So that's the advice I would give.
Wonderful. Holly, thank you so much for being with us today. And I really, really appreciate it. You have so much to offer, especially new trainers starting out, or just anybody in the business with all of your expertise. Again, Holly Peck with the Peck Training Group. Thank you so much, Holly. And everybody, enjoy your day. Thank you so much.